This panel is Nurturing Resilience panel, but it's our Innovators panel. So we've come full circle from our pioneers, Nurturing Resilience, and now we have our Innovators panel. And I just wanted to do a little brief info on a couple folks who are actually running this panel. First is Goldie Mariola, and Goldie, along with Nick Navarez, are working tirelessly all year on this event. We start right after this event in October to make this event happen. So it's a whole year of a lot of work going on. And Goldie is our education coordinator. She also is very involved in running the home tours. And she had run back here from the home tours to be part of the panel, so thank you. And we also have our education series all year. Okay, so if you're in the area or visiting, please go on our website at crowstoneenergyfair.org. You'll see our education series. It's amazing because we bring people in to do specialty things that people are asking for, building and all that, and also permaculture and lots of different things that you will see at the Energy Fair. But it really helps continue what we're doing on this weekend throughout the year, and we've had a lot of great response to it. So thank Goldie for being here. And of course, the infamous Nick Navarez, our wonderful producer, who was in the ice bath this morning. You may not have all seen it, and he was singing in the ice bath, because that's how much energy this man has. It will not ever go away in the near future. And that's what we need to make this happen. And also, I don't want to forget Anya, and we've got an amazing crew of people. I know I can't say all their names up here, but she's our director. Lisa's back as our advisor. And we'll all be here for the Ripple. So we want you to join us because it's fun for us after so much work to come together with all of you and really bring this to a good closing so we can go out on a great note. So I will lead this off and hand off to the wonderful head panel people here.
I just want to once again thank Dr. Kim Engard for her tireless work as MC this entire weekend. Dr. Kim is a local naturopath and Chinese medicine expert and really serves this community beautifully by healing us in natural alternative ways. So let's give it up for Dr. Kim. You're welcome. Of course. All right, I'm going to give it to Goldie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Okay. I am going to take a minute to I'm thinking back to many moons ago. We were at Hooper Pool coming up with what our theme was going to be for the year. And that's always a really fun, ridiculous brainstorm that we have. And we finally dialed in on nurturing resilience. And I think that's not maybe a very obvious theme. Like, what does that really mean? But I think everyone probably has their own definition of what does nurturing resilience mean. And I think that here in Crestone and the Energy Fair specifically lives that and breathes that. Like, we are always nurturing the resilience that we have within our community by creating bonds with each other and strengthening bonds with each other and recognizing where we have our strengths and then recognizing where we don't and leaning into each other when we need to. And it's no coincidence, I don't think, that we picked this theme and then went on to have many opportunities of mishap throughout the year within our crew and with our events and stuff, and then we really just got to lean on each other and make it through. And I'm just like, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm beaming from gratitude that here we are, and this is the bookend panel of the event, and it was begun with the Nurturing Resilience pioneers, because there's so many people in Crestone who have been here for decades, leading the way and making the path more clear for people like us to come along and do the damn thing, right, Anya? So everyone here today is someone that I have been totally inspired by the work that they're doing, and I'm grateful to be here. I can't believe it's almost, the end of this event, but thank you all for showing up. And, next year we'll just our theme might be just sunshine next year, something easy. But for this year, we really went through it, and I'm really grateful. And I personally have found a lot of growth in the event and the work that it takes to put this on. So I'm feeling really grateful right now. But anyways, I'm gonna pass the mic down and let each of you talk about what it is that you're involved in, and what do you love about doing that work, and what inspired you to get into the work that you do. So thanks, everyone.
My name is Ariel Blackwell. I'm the clerk, treasurer, and administrator for the town of Crestone. How I got into that line of work is kind of a little bit meandering, but I started off as office assistant there after managing the bar in town. Oh, gosh, sorry. I started off in town as the office assistant after managing the Tea Road Brewing Company for a number of years. I was looking for a very quiet job, and and it was quickly not that. There was little to no staff and a lot of turnover, a lot of loss of institutional knowledge. And so I've been working for the past year and a half and some change on creating systems and procedures that will outlast me, so that no one ever comes into the chaos that I came into at town. What really inspires me, though, is the community of Crestone, and I really wanted to give back to Crestone in a way, and I feel like there's so many artists and innovators here. I wasn't quite sure how I could give back, but I'm very organized and methodical and structured, and I figured maybe I could help provide some structure so that the art can, continue and to grow. That's all for me.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elzabieta. I am the branch chief here of Inshin Karate Crestone. We focus mostly on youth programs in martial arts and resilience through movement and somatic integration, and finding alignment in conflict and transformation through the art of conflict and through the art of endurance and strength. More recently, I started an organization, Cottonwood Restoration, to create a learning campus for alternative learners to support the integration of spirit, form, consciousness, and inner alignment and purpose for youth. So we serve homeschool youth, and we couple that with the Bushido concepts and the martial arts philosophy of strength and endurance, alignment, respect, and rapport, and are really just interested in creating resilience for all of our young people to usher in the new consciousness in the new world, the new templates and structures that are building the future. I would say that what inspired me, that was the other piece, it's 25 years of clinical work studying human consciousness, studying form, looking at what makes people sick, what makes people disconnected, what makes people disenfranchised, and really looking at years and years of working with adults and then transitioning in the last decade to working with young people and figuring out why aren't we teaching our kids what resilience and integration and purpose and relationship between heaven and earth, if you will, means versus iteration of useless facts or things that they won't ever use in their life. So that's where the evolution of this kind of radical education, vocational learning campus has come about.
My name is Kirsten Jacobson, and I came into the field I'm in kind of by accident, stumbling upon earthships to begin with and falling in love with building with natural and alternative materials. And then slowly through working through that, I kind of created my own job or position as education director of Earthship Biotexture, starting the intern program in the Earthship Academy and training dozens and hundreds of people at a time around the US and around the world how to build natural and alternative homes. Since that time, I've started another education company that I co-founded with my founder, Jean Nardone, called Build Outside the Box, and we help people learn what natural and alternative building methods are best for them, their budget, their skill level, their permitting situation, their personal aesthetic, the available materials in their neighborhood. And what inspires me is seeing all the amazing people in this country and around the world who've kind of individually championed their own building methods and styles and persevered against extreme odds in the face of all the powers that influence conventional building construction to build more autonomous and resilient buildings and a more self-sufficient future for people and the planet.
Hi, everybody. My name is Yasha S. Wagner, and I work as a PhD researcher and author in the field of psychology and well-being and spirituality. And actually, fun fact, I finally finished my peer review approval like the day before coming here. So my dissertation is now about to be published. And I mention that because there's a sort of requirement in PhD work that it is innovation. So I'm really honored to be on the Innovators panel. And then on the other hand, I'm also the founder of a nonprofit called the Interworld Institute for Inner World Peace. And so we really do work at the intersection of personal and collective transformation. So the psychology, the inner work, that personal transformation is at the foundation. But then on the collective side, for instance, we're developing an eco-village on 40 acres outside of Colorado Springs. I'll be sharing a little more about that today, the design plans and so on. So that's also an innovation process, innovating what the next kind of architectural and communal systems might look like. So that's a little bit about myself, and I'm inspired by this gathering and this panel and all the other people that are here and Crestone and just watching the amazing knowledge, and it's humbling and it's so beautiful. I'm really grateful to be alongside such bright and brilliant and powerful people this weekend. So thank you.
Thank you, Yasha. Oh, funny. Okay. Oh, I thought I was just a host. I wasn't a panelist too. Okay, my name is Nick Navarez. I am the owner of Mountainside Realty real estate brokerage, as well as the producer of this event here. I've been working with the Crestone Energy Fair alongside Lisa Bodie and formerly Donovan Spitzman and Goldie for a number of years, really recreating this event. You know, it's been around for 36 years. I was just telling someone earlier, like 7 years ago, Nathan Good actually got me involved in this program. And I just come to town. I helped the town produce the 4th of July event for the first time. And he came up to me and was like, "Oh, wow, you know what you're doing. Could you help me with this thing called the Crestone Energy Fair?" I was like, "What is that?" He was like, "Well, it's like a group of guys who like to talk about building." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, what do you got?" He was like, "I have 40 people who want to speak." I'm like, "Okay. What else do you got?" And he's like, "That's it." So the Energy Fair 7 years ago was building demonstrations, because that's always been around, and formerly run by Paul Shippey, who recently passed, as well as the home tours. I'm sorry, the home tours were run by Paul Shippey. Building demonstrations, Donovan and other people ran that for a number of years. And so the rest of the Energy Fair was 4 pallets with guys talking on megaphones. So none of this you see here was a part of the Energy Fair in the past. So I'm really proud of the work we've continued to do. Anya's contribution to the fair as our new director. She's coming in here right now. And we joke because like our website, our social media marketing is so dialed in right now, right? People think we have just like flush with cash because our social media is so good and our website's so good, but that's not the case. So if you feel like donating, we all have these little retractable things. You are welcome to give us even $10. It's great. We could use $10. Anyways, so when I came to this community, I looked around and said, okay, I can live here, but I have to take over all the events, which I have now done. And in a past life, I used to produce music festivals for a living for people who were very entitled, very rich, and really didn't appreciate the amount of energy that went into it. Whereas here, seeing this community thrive and expand in a really beautiful way because of, to some degree, the events that I am helping produce is really rewarding. And that continues to create a space where people can gather and talk about important issues and also eat and dance and really engage with each other in a meaningful way without arguing, right? With hearing each other, and by also hearing and listening and talking to each other without being on your phones, without having this additional construct between you is really an amazing facet of this community that I truly love and appreciate. So continues to be an honor to serve this community in this way.
Thank you all. So I am curious about, because you're all walking a path, a life path, a profession, whatever it is, that has groundwork laid for it, right? And sometimes we do things in certain ways that who knows why we ever ended up doing them that way, and like maybe we're just doing that because that's the way it's always been done, right? But each of you is looking at what can be done better, which I think is like really the essence of this Innovators panel, is like building upon what has been laid and like sometimes ripping out the path of the antiquated systems that are no longer working. So I'm wondering if there is, a policy or a community practice or something that you are finding is actually like really working for you in your field, or what is actually having an impact in making change that you can actually see.
Why not start?
Yeah, you don't have to start.
Think
I'll
about it.
go. When I think about impact and change, I think about what happens over time and what gets seeded in our own consciousness that then breeds back into our family systems or back into our community. And for us, really looking at, from a martial arts perspective, looking at the children's capacity to have the ability to hold their center, to have endurance, to have strength, to deal with things coming at them outside of the dojo that might be bullying, or maybe their family issues, or maybe they're dealing with other kind of challenges. Their capacity to stay integrated during that process and create a new model or example for peers and for the people that they're around, their families and their communities. So the idea that we can really engender with our young people a place of integration early, that from my experience in a therapeutic standpoint, they're not ending up on my treatment table at 40 years old trying to figure out who they were at age 6 or 7 that never was anchored or integrated and modeled back to them or shown as, a new way of doing something or a new way of being within, the context of their relationships or experiences that sometimes can tend to pull us down. So even just seeing how the kids innovate and how they demand something different by having their own knowledge of self and their own self-integration.
I think that for me, the most impactful thing is about natural building is the opportunity for people and personal transformation. And so I feel like I'm kind of, I don't know, like a doula or something to help people give birth to their natural alternative off-grid. I mean, they're going to do the work. They're going to bear the weight. It's their body. But I feel like I can help them see different opportunities, ways that it can be smoother, feel good about themselves while they're doing it, make choices that are best for them. I think that's part of it. And watching the personal transformation, you know, putting a hammer in someone's hand for the first time or a saw, especially women. Like, I didn't grow up with anyone telling me that I couldn't build or do construction or be anything I wanted to be, but no one told me that I could do it. And it wasn't until someone put the tools in my hand, and man, I felt so empowered, and I wanted to chop up all the wood and nail in all the nails and throw up all the plaster and kind of prove something to, I don't know who, maybe just myself. But the personal transformation part is the most effective. You know, natural building isn't something that you can just, it's not a scalable product in the way of like, poof, oh, you can have this house. It's time and toil, but the people that end up doing it kind of lead by example, live a life in alignment with their values, and the other people, like Goldie, that connect with them are transformed by her transformation, and it passes on in a really impactful way. So, yeah.
So what is working? What are we finding that does work? Starting from within and letting that inner work blossom naturally into an all-encompassing collective change is what we are leaning into with our research and our organization. So what I mean by that is, as opposed to coming up with some sort of new system that's imposed from the outside in as this is what's going to work better now, what we're focused on is how do we truly create a system that begins with our own state of mind, our mindset, our own state of being, and our relationships with each other, our conduct, our maturity as people from within. And from that change, from that growth, grow, blossom a new way of being together, right? So in the spirit of innovation, I guess I'll give an example of a model that I've been working on. It's called the 4 quadrants of responsibility, and you can see it on screen. And this is about like the 4 basic stances that we could take towards life, basic attitudes we could take. And so passive negative attitude would be to point the finger, cast blame, play victim, say something is wrong out there, but I'm not going to do anything about it, not my problem. And that's called complaining, right? Or we could avoid, and we could say, oh, everything's so perfect and the universe, and I'm going to sit here on my couch forever and do nothing because it's already just perfect. And that's called avoiding reality, right? Or we could take a negative active attitude of resistance and kind of play savior and try to fix what's out there, saying something is wrong and I am going to do something about it, right? And that's a little bit more proactive, but it's maybe more reactive than proactive, right? It's active, but it's reactive. And ultimately, this quadrants model is suggesting let's instead get to the point of elevating, which, speaking of martial arts, is partially inspired by the Tai Chi philosophy of starting where you are, meet, go with, redirect. So elevate is about recognizing that ultimately I can't make the universe any better than the great mystery has. I'm not trying to fix it. It's perfect. So nothing is wrong, and yet there's infinite room for improvement. So I am going to engage. I am going to do something. I am going to be proactive and creative with my life energy. So that's what I would call a positive active attitude. And that attitude that's solutions-oriented, that's responsible, that attitude we have found in our work is the prerequisite, essential, critical seed for starting something like an eco-village that can stick together and keep going through challenges. For any kind of collective systems change, it has to start from that attitudinal shift in your own life, right, in your own being, in your relationships. So that would be my answer. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ariel, do you have an answer? Do you want to? We can go to the next question. You do. Okay, great.
Sorry, I just wanted to take some time to really think about that. Um, it's a little bit hard because I feel like when I came into town, we spent so much of our time in a reactive state. I spent so much time cleaning up messes from the past, physical and otherwise. And so during that process, we really spent a lot of time in, again, what I've said before is creating systems. And these systems to me are important because they help build a structure that will outlast me and can adapt in a way with Crestone as it grows as well, so that we're not just like constantly trying to bounce back, we can kind of bounce forward too, as corny as that sounds. So some of the systems and things that we've been working on is like rewriting the municipal code. We have things in our municipal code that date back to the 1800s. They don't necessarily relate to our experience as Crestonians today. So just working through, going through that and making sure that it actually makes sense for the citizens of this town and supports them rather than like punishing. Sorry, I got distracted again. I lost it. So working on systems of that nature, just even working on like digitizing the office, making sure that people who come in can have access to what they need, making sure that things are ADA accessible. Those are the systems and structures that we've been working on and kind of getting rid of the things that didn't work and that were outdated in the past.
I have a follow-up. Is that okay? Or do you want to talk about it? No. Okay, so I have a question to kind of follow up with that. I'm wondering if, are you guys finding that people are receptive to these changes right now? Is there a lot of like butting heads going on, or maybe the people that you're working with are like already interested in the work that you're wanting to do and the strengthening of resilience that's happening? But I just wonder, that's kind of I don't know if it's necessarily a yes or no question, but are you finding that people are like ready for this change?
I would say that I definitely get a lot of pushback, but it is town, it's government. We're always going to get pushback on pretty much everything. But there is a lot of support as well that I've been experiencing. I think people do want to see some change. And where I'm coming from personally is someone who wants to keep Crestone the way it is, keep its values and its uniqueness, but also move forward in a way that we can support our future generations. So I think that helps when people understand that that's where I'm coming from. I'm not here to try and change Crestone and make it bolder. I didn't want to live there at all. So, but and I will say, like, the trustees and the board that I work with now is very open to that change. So having that sort of support and collaboration for them has made for a really good working environment and a really productive working environment as well.
I love what you said about instead of always having to bounce back, we're bouncing forward. Because when you look at the definition of resilience, it is being able to stretch and then bounce back, right, and find back to our center. But when we look at innovation and we look at what is it going to take to create new systems or create new change or to usher in a new generation of consciousness, it is about moving forward, right? And for us, I see a lot of our kids want to move forward. They want to grow. They want to thrive. They want to connect. They want to find themselves. Whereas, and they don't have as much, baggage or stories or maybe outdated codes that they're referencing from, their past life or their past experiences. So they're a little bit more of a clean slate and have the capacity to really up-level and accelerate their abilities. Whereas, sometimes working with adults, they get injured more, they take conflict more personally, they have a harder time being able to face themselves or to look at their blind spots, which the martial arts training gives us an opportunity for all of those things as a vehicle of transformation. And so for me, helped me to just really focus on youth programs, because it's like if I can invest as an instructor into a group of people that can skyrocket their capacity versus like always having to bounce back and always having to triage and always, not saying that there's not value within that, but it is really what is going to outlast and what is going to be the future. It is the young people. So I don't know if that answers your question, but the kids are down.
I think a equitable, sustainable future is really only possible through resilience and nodes of resilience, nodes of independence and community, and people being able to take care of themselves and their own needs. Like the systems that we rely on right now, the grid, the water infrastructure, everything, are so vulnerable, so outdated, so expensive, going down constantly, and we're not going to be able to depend on those systems. They're not going to be there anymore. AI is going to drink all the water and use up all the power. And so, by definition, the world that we're going to live in the future is going to be more individually and community oriented and around autonomy. Like that is what it's going to be when we still have communities. So we can choose to do that really rapidly in a chaotic panic, or we can choose that path now and take consistent steps towards that future. And I'm always trying to, like, how do you not come at people, but how do you get people into the movement and inspired without provoking fear? Like, oh, let's be afraid of the changes, and this is why, we need to be preppers and get our, 5-gallon buckets of almonds and our guns, or we need to like bury underground and live in a bunker breathing filtered air, or like escape the planet and rocket off to Mars with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Katy Perry and whatever, like, and like smell their filtered farts on the space station or whatever. Like, that's not my, like, I don't know. It's not about my vision of the future, but like when I was young, the future was seen as modern, clean, like fun, floating cars, George Jetson, like whatever. And we don't have I don't see a lot of visions of the future out there right now that are, positive and resilient, and it just seems very negative. So I want to spread a positive, enthusiastic version that we have enough. The sun gives us enough energy to power everything a zillion times over every day. We can reuse our water. We can build out of natural materials. Like, it's not a hippie dropout prepper burnout fantasy. It is like real. It's accessible, that people are doing it, and I want to get more people inspired. And I don't know if I answered your question.
Wow, I didn't know Katy Perry was going. That's cool. Makes me reconsider. Might be a good concert. No, just kidding. I'm gonna stick around. Yeah, so just in keeping with the question, do we get pushback and resistance with this work? What comes up for me is that I feel there's a difference between the conceptual, intellectual idea and like the fantasy of what's cool and what I'm into and what I'm gonna do versus in practice, the experiential reality of it, like walking the talk, putting your money where your mouth is, which I decided on stage to demonstrate what that might look like, which is to give this guy with an orange thing $20 right now. So if you haven't done so yet and you feel so inspired, I want to give a shout out to Crestone Energy Fair for doing this whole thing for free. And I had not yet given any cash to an orange wearing person. And I felt like that would be a good moment to demonstrate how it's done. It's pretty easy. And it's painless because it's an investment in ourselves and what's happening here. So anyways, that's my answer, is that I think there's a real difference when you take the concept and you put it into practice. And this really relates back to resilience as well, because, for instance, creating an eco-village, we find that that sounds so romantic and so ideal, and you might start out super excited about it, but then inevitably you're going to encounter challenges, you're going to encounter, trials and tribulations along the way. And so what does it look like to be resilient, to be able to pass through those? And I think it's all about taking that concept of the beautiful vision of what we could create and the new paradigm and working together harmoniously, and then actually bring that into the nitty-gritty of sweeping the floor, of making a donation at the energy fair, of taking out the trash, of noticing that you're triggered right now and you're going to breathe through it and process your emotions and then come to the table with a better attitude, and things like this, sticking through those challenges to be able to bring it somewhere further, right? So, yeah, that would be my answer. Thanks.
Thank you, Yasha. All right, our next question. The Crestone Energy Fair focuses on regenerative living, which means going beyond mere sustainability and focusing and striving to leave the world better than we found it. How does your work contribute to not just surviving, but thriving in the face of environmental, social, or political changes? Anyone?
That question brought to mind, I'm just going to talk about a few specific projects that I've been working on that I think will outlast me and contribute to the thriving of this community. The first one is that the town of Crestone is opted into Proposition 123, and for anyone who's not familiar with that, it's a statewide initiative that pulls from sales tax revenue to help with affordable housing for low-income communities. So the town of Crestone is obligated to provide at least one unit of affordable housing every year. And I feel really good that we're a part of this, because housing is like one of the cornerstones of resilience in my mind. If people are safely housed and secure, then they can focus on building businesses, contributing to the community in a multitude of fashions. So step one for me is the housing part of the element. We don't have enough affordable housing in the town of Crestone or in Crestone in general. So I feel like we're struggling in that means. So any way that we can improve upon that will allow Crestone to flourish, in my mind. Two other projects we've been working on. We just bought land in town to expand our water infrastructure. Right now we only have one water tower. We're working on building a second. That way it's not so much on residents as it is now to pay for extensions to water lines, which is extremely costly. It involves engineers, labor. It's unbelievably ridiculously expensive. So that way, our residents have that ability to connect to our water system without paying tens of thousands of dollars. And then thirdly is I've been working on expanding our cemetery. We currently don't have any plots in the cemetery, and I think that's a shame for everyone here who wants to, remain here in your next life as well. So I've been overseeing the expansion of that, from the surveying all the way into the construction part of that. Just thinking about ways to help the community in fashions that will outlive me for sure.
So this inspires me to share a little bit about the educational framework that we are budding and growing into, that started with a homeschool enrichment and is then growing into a conceptual curriculum around knowledge of self. You had said something about the idea of internal work, then reflecting externally on how we can show up. And then you said something about, well, what does the future really look like? And so these are questions that I started asking for my children, and and being really radical enough to think that that process of understanding how to be with the internal terrain of your being, how to master it, and how to understand your purpose so that you can actually be connected to the future that you're dreaming or that you're brought here to bring to reality, is essentially the concept of what our educational framework looks like. And it's really radical because it dismisses a lot of the iteration and the reiteration of facts and information that is part of the school system that has not really been updated or not really been evolved for many, many years. So these standardized spaces of knowledge that kids are, pigeonholed and boxed into, and replaces it with how do you be with yourself? How do you engage and understand the mental, physical, emotional contents of your being, whether that be deep esoteric studies of anatomy and physiology or scientific understanding of biology, or it be breath work, or it be the ability to face conflict. We mirror that and to how we move with one another, and then we engage one another from a place that is a little bit more informed about what we're made of and who we are. And so providing an environment that champions that as a context, and then going into things like ecological studies, going into things like food as medicine, growing your own food, sustainable building, sustainable systems, ways that these young people can imagine solutions that they're already probably dreaming up. And focusing on that for the primary years, not dismissing literacy or math, or even evolving math into looking at entrepreneurialism and financial literacy, and being able to look at resource-based economy and other ways of thinking. So until these kids are basically at puberty, we focus on what is the internal terrain of being, and how do we cultivate that by how we move, how we eat, how we interact, and how we show up in the world. And then they choose. They choose their vocation, they choose their path, and we can get behind that, and we can put them in connection with mentors, we can put them in connection with jobs. I mean, I went into my field when I was 17. I'm watching my 17-year-old daughter go into her field at 17, and she chose it. I chose what I needed to do. So instead of having to re-engineer and figure out, well, who am I after 18 years of indoctrination, we wake up the spirit, we wake up the consciousness, and let the kids lead. Sorry.
Well, I think sustainability in the conventional sense of the word is just not enough. It's not going to cut it anymore. We need a new way of perceiving the world, of the potential that we have, and we cannot continue to rely on severely outdated systems, no matter how, fight climate change, put a bunch of renewable energy on the grid. Well, you basically have to build an entire new power grid for the whole country, which will take more than 10 years to carry the loads of this new power production. And you have these giant corporations, some of the most evil corporations in the world, the energy corporations, controlling those renewable energy sources, coming to you through a network of wires and pipes that takes its own embodied energy. It takes energy to move water. When you transmit electricity through the grid, you lose energy along the way through voltage drop. These systems are just not modern. The landline telephone and the electric grid were invented around the same time. And if I said to you, okay, I'm taking away your cell phone right now, and I'm replacing it with a landline telephone for all your personal communication, to run your business, to get all your information, the dial-up tone, that is your way that you integrate and communicate with the world and run your business and run your personal life. Is that going to cut it? No, you have your cellular phone, that's your means of communication. So your house can be a cellular support system. You can be your own energy company. You can be your own water company. You can heat and cool your own home without all these things. And I think that is resilience. That is modernity. That is something that's going to, continue on into the future without breaking.
that was a great bit to piggyback off of because that's what we're doing. So I'll share a little bit about our eco village in keeping with this sustainability topic. You can see on the screen, shout out to Law Stewart in Texas, incredible animator and designer helping us do the virtual renderings of our design plans for the eco village. So you can see here a little bit of the software he's using to start mapping out our design plans. There's, a pond. There's already an excavation that was already there on the land, so that's kind of works with the permaculture approach of working with how the land is already set up and observing how it is right now and then working with that. So we already had this cavity in the land, so it's a perfect space to put a pond. You don't need to dig it out. Similarly, there's these, and I'll maybe switch to the video version of this, but there's what you see here in this rough draft are terraced earth mounds. So this is our land, by the way. This is actual GPS imagery of the 40 acres, and then several of these structures already exist there. There's a main house and a converted barn. There's a solar power system that supports the energy needs of the property, sacred fire, garden beds, tiny house, all of that's already there, mural. So that's what's there. Even this large pavilion right here is already built. We're lucky enough to, on 40 acres outside of the Springs, have a lot of leniency with what we can do there. So that pavilion's already there. And then with these design plans, this kind of geometric sacred geostructure you see is one of our next projects, and it'll include event spaces and living quarters, and it's meant to be partially submerged underground. So inspired in part by the Earthship style, but even more so, we just noticed that our basement in the heat of the high desert in the middle of the summer stays perfectly cool. Even though there's windows and there's no AC in there, and it stays colder than the fully air-conditioned structures we've built. So that's a lot less energy usage, a lot less expenditure. It's not just a theory, it actually works. So we're gonna dig into the ground and build partially underground. And then stacking functions, right? You take that dirt that you're digging out when we install this structure, create a terraced earth mound. Stacking functions, again, the earth mound will provide privacy. It'll also be a wind break, and then it'll also create topography and earthworks where we can work with water retention and create, soil beds in the terraced face of the mound to grow more food and ornamental plants and so on. So that's a little bit of the design right here, and then there's a lot more I could go into, but just with the time we have, there's a fountain, and this stupa in the center is dedicated to the elements, the 4 elements. You can see it right here. Ooh. Right there, you can see the stupa. Those shapes are each of the elements, and so, yeah, anyways, this is just a rough draft, but this is some really fun design work that Law Stewart did, and you can see over on this side the submerged greenhouses that we're beginning to install this year. So we'll have 3 greenhouses for growing food, a geodesic dome partially donated by Tree Fort and Rainbow Lightning. And yeah, that playground's already there. So Miles and Sierra back there in the Gaia Craft tent, check out their tent. They live with us. They're one of the families at the Eco Village, and the kids run around and use this playground, which is always fun to see. So we are open to collabs and investments and things like this, and that's a little bit about the vision.
Nice. Thank you. All right.
I don't know if we're going to take questions or not, but we're already nearing the end of our panel. But I maybe was going to put you on the spot, Nick, because maybe you could talk about just the Energy Fair itself as an event and how we've experienced resilience or, interfaced with that.
So again, like I mentioned before, the Crestone Energy Fair has been around for 36 years. It has morphed in different ways throughout the years. It began as a way for owner builders to help future owner builders learn how to build with alternative building materials in a time, 36 years ago, there was no internet, right? There was no burgeoning internet, but like not what we know today. There was no information transfer and communication like we have today. And so there was a need to understand and learn how to do this in person. And so this event and this community really was the on the ground floor of helping people learn how to do this more locally. But over the years we've expanded, and now I feel like people come from around the country to learn and see how beautiful these structures are, how well preserved they can be, how nice the environment is inside, non-toxic the environment is inside. Over the years, our group of the Crestone Energy Fair has changed and incorporated different new parts of our event. What began as building has now grown into alternative energy generation, high altitude and desert gardening. We have alternative healing modalities. A lot of different facets to the sustainability web that really create a fully holistic lifestyle that I feel like Crestone in particular really embodies. The people here get it in a way that you just can't explain to people from outside. There aren't that many communities living this and breathing this existence day by day. And so as that, we are, in many ways, we're certainly not perfect, but we are a model for a lot of other community groups who are looking to integrate more people into a collective and in a collective experience, a living collective experience. And I do feel like, and I'm very honored to be a part of such an extraordinary group of people who are living and breathing this really important work. So I don't know if that answered the question.
We could ask for questions.
Okay, do we have any questions?
Does anyone have a question? Do we?
Does anybody have any questions for our Innovators panel? Anybody? Are you raising your hand, Matt? You weren't? Oh, come on. We don't have to. You go. Okay.
Wrap it up. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. I think that for me, resilience is leaning on each other. I've been giving this a lot of thought lately, and I don't know that I'm sure it's possible individually, but really it's meant to happen collectively. So I'm really grateful for all of you for being up here and, just knowing that you're all like doing the work out there and making everything better for everyone else. So yeah, thank you all for coming.